Well, hello. This is going to be a little odd actually, because I did a recording of when walking became careful before I had hip surgery. I thought I had recorded the second part, but today, looking through videos, trying to make some head nor tail of them, I'm not sure that it was there. So I went back through all my writings and decided to do it again because it's incredibly important if you are suffering the way I was. This is called The Return of Joy, and I think I recorded the initial one in November of 25, and I was due for my hip replacement December 10th. So it's been quite a while, but this was written very soon after my surgery, and hopefully it will help a lot of people. So welcome to this part of when walking became careful after the surgery, the return of joy. In this part, I'll bring you with me into the days and weeks after the operation, and those gentle, surprising moments when you realize life is coming back to you, one step at a time. If you're listening while healing yourself or preparing for your own surgery, I hope this brings you comfort and companionship. There is joy waiting for you, real joy, and you'll hear how simply and quietly it begins. That's if you let it, by the way. So let's walk the rest of this journey. There's something almost magical about the first morning at home after hip surgery. You expect drama, struggle, or some kind of heroic effort. But instead, you wake in your own bed and realize your body is doing the work for you. Quietly, gently, the way a wise old house settles after a storm. I remember lying there thinking, it's done. It's finally done. Not the pain, not the years of limitation, not the compensating. All that was behind me now. What lay ahead was healing. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt possible again. Those first few walks around the house are tender. Not weak, but tender. Like a new shoot pushing up through the soil, the body is relearning safety. Your steps are rehearsing freedom. I'd walk into the kitchen, take a deep breath and feel the strangest sensation. No grinding, no sharpness, no dread of the next step, just steady movement. It wasn't perfect and it wasn't fast by any means, but it was better, so much better than what I'd lived with for so long. And the most unexpected thing happened. My mind, which had been bracing itself for years, suddenly relaxed. I stood taller. I breathed deeper. I moved more naturally. The compensations, those tiny adjustments, the guarded patterns, they began to fall away like leaves, releasing themselves in autumn. Every day the walk felt a little freer. Now, healing doesn't come in big bursts. It arrives in the quiet victories that no one else sees. Like the first time you stand up without thinking about how. The first day you make your own cup of tea easily. The moment you realize you've walked across the room without hesitating. And the moment you laugh, really laugh, because your body feels like your body again. One morning I caught myself walking past the mirror and noticed my posture. For the first time in years, I wasn't leaning. I wasn't protecting. I wasn't tilting like a windswept a wind-swept tree. I was standing upright, solid, centered and confident. Well, sort of. And I whispered to myself, there you are. And that was joy I didn't even know I'd been longing for. And you know, it's funny how freedom doesn't shout. It settles into you very quietly. You test a longer distance and you sit comfortably. You sleep without that old waking ache. Mind you, while you've got everything all strapped up and stitches and you're hoisting your leg up and down into bed, it all seems rather odd, but I found that was even better than what I was suffering previous to the surgery. And I was worried, now is this hip going to stay there? Do I pop it out? Is it just going to move? And yes, I was really, really careful. In bed, propped up. A lot of the nights, I think I was awake most of the night. I was so apprehensive, but apprehensive in a good way, because my world was beginning to widen again, and you realise something profound. This surgery didn't just give you a new hip, it gave you back your life. I could walk again, not like an old woman guarding her joints, but like someone who still has chapters ahead, projects to start, stories to record, grandchildren to play with, and I could play with them. And before, I had a job if I did get to the floor, getting up again. I was just such an old crotchety darn thing. And hopefully there's a whole row of years waiting patiently for me to step into them with ease. And to me, that is joy. Not loud joy, not dramatic joy, but the quiet joy of returning to yourself. And let me tell you, if people have been putting fear into you, don't listen. Go on your own journey. I really did look forward to the recovery of having this hip. I seem to have so many nuts and bolts in me now, and a couple of years ago it was my spine that had closed up. So is it titanium or titanium nuts and bolts in my spine? But before they would do that, they had to do the similar thing to my neck, which if the neck didn't go well, they wouldn't do the back, so they did the neck first. So I was in a neck brace for I don't know how long. And then that went well, and I was determined to get my back done because that really hurt. Then I was in a back brace, wasn't I, for weeks and weeks. But again, it was better than how I was feeling previous to that. And then, lo and behold, what was left of the aches and pains was this dodgy hip. My only fear is that the other hip starts playing up. I shouldn't say that really, should I? I hope it won't anyway. But I've got the hip done, and it really is astounding. After a very short time, really, even going back to see my surgeon for the checkups, and I wanted to drive before the 6 weeks, but that wasn't possible. But even getting in and out of a vehicle had got easy. I didn't feel so helpless, and like I say, I could stand up straight. I always seemed to walk everywhere with my bum stuck out. Just ridiculous. And I used to try and straighten up, but it just wasn't possible. And I didn't realise how much pain I was in until I wasn't, if that makes sense. I hadn't realised how much I was overcompensating with the rest of my body to try and not put too much wear and tear on a hip that wasn't, that was grinding bone on bone. The surgeon told me that I probably would have some numbness in on top of my thigh that might never go away again, and all these things that they need to warn you about. And I don't care. This hip has been the best thing apart from my back surgeries, and it's nearly a year later, and even 6 months ago, sometimes you suddenly think, oh, I've had a hip replacement, and I'd have to think, which one is it? Now that's something when you don't know which hip you had the replacement on, right? So if you find yourself a good surgeon, thank goodness mine was, the surgeon for my back was amazing. I think they're all really good now. And every step you take, every time, you can get rid of the, what's it called? I made sure I had everything to do the transformation, as it were. I got the 6-inch thing that goes on the loo, the toilet seat raiser with handles. Now, although 20 years ago, I'd have said, heck no, not get one. All those things were amazing. That especially because, your legs stuck out in front of you when you come home for quite a long while, and that raised toilet seat is amazing. And the seat in the shower, cocking my leg over the side of the bath, because that's the sort of shower I got, was quite difficult, but you learn how to do it. Sit your bum on the seat and just swirl around and do the same thing getting out. But just take your time. I didn't want anyone to help me with anything, honestly. My daughter insisted on helping me with the drugs because she doesn't trust me, and she thought I would be, not that I would overdose, but I would get them in a pickle. So she did become, the lady who doled the drugs out, which was fine. I don't know what else I can say about it. It just is honestly miraculous. So I hope, now I finally got around to recording this properly, that it helps. And if you are listening to this because you're preparing for your own surgery, or you're healing already, let me tell you something from my heart. You can do this. You are stronger than you think. Your body is ready for relief. Your mind is capable of guiding you through. And on the other side of this journey, there's a life that feels bigger and lighter and more yours. You have not lived all these years just to suffer. There's more ahead. More movement, more comfort, and more days that feel like gifts. So let this surgery open the door. And to close this, as I'm closing it, you probably thought I was in a wind tunnel. But I apologise if it was really noisy. That was the AC, air conditioning, doing its job. So just for a couple of minutes before I end this, take a long, slow breath and just let your body soften, either your pre-surgery or post-surgery. And picture yourself standing in a warm patch of afternoon light in your own home. The floor is steady beneath you and your body is relaxed. Your new hip, or your new hip that's coming, feels supporting, strong and quietly alive. Imagine yourself taking 3 slow steps, and each one smoother than the last, each one more confident, each one a little freer. See yourself standing tall, shoulders soft, spine long, hips level. Feel lightness spreading through your legs like warm water, easing every tight place. And say gently in your mind, my body is healing. Each day I move more freely and joy is returning to me. let that truth settle into your breath and let it comfort you. And know that you were very careful, and you will still be careful with your new hip, but it's totally different. And please, please look forward to walking without fear.